States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, it's 7 o'clock, and we declare the meeting open, February 17, 2015. Mayor Madela sends his salutations and greetings. He had a little surgery today. He's okay. He'll be back next meeting, so I'm taking his place tonight. Okay, so Curry, could you call the meeting to order, please? I mean, could you do the roll call? Excuse me.
Fisher Brown?
Yes.
Sparks?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Matheler?
Here.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Gambino?
That was on.
Gotcha.
That's all right.
Grant?
Aye. Here.
Okay. Okay, so we have some minutes to approve. Anybody got a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes, Mr. President.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve the minutes from February 3rd. Or their second? Second. Okay, it's been approved and seconded that we do this. Call roll, please.
Fisher Brown?
Yes.
Sparks?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Gambino?
Yes.
Grant?
Yes.
Okay, next one is accounts payable. Robert?
Mr. President, I would like to move that we approve accounts payable as presented.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the accounts payable. Call the roll.
Sparks?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Olson?
Yes.
Gambino?
Yes.
Grant?
Aye.
Fisher Brown?
Yes.
Okay, so moving right along, our next item of business is under special orders, and tonight we're going to have public comments on the regulation of medical marijuana facilities. We were expecting many more people to come to this meeting, and they didn't make it, so I think if anybody has any comments, they can come up and introduce themselves, and we don't have to limit your time. So is anybody going to make any comments on medical marijuana? Roy, you tag them?
Just a note, I just received the draft of the ordinance. And it says a medical marijuana facility may not be located within 1,000 feet of a public or private facility attended primarily by minors.
Yes.
I think we all know what we mean, but the definition of attended primarily, what does that mean? And I'm thinking in the legal sense. I think that's not a bad phrase, but I think maybe it should be tied on to the list that a lot of other cities do, where they say schools, and if you want parks, you know, et cetera, and list it, and then say, and other that are primarily. The nice thing about listing them, you could also add in the list community centers. That eliminates all ambiguity of neighbors for kids. A while back, the Planning Commission authorized it to be a community center. And of course, we do have another community center. We like to call it a community hall. So you could say community halls and community centers if you want to cover. But nice thing if you list it, it gets rid of all the ambiguity and possible arguments, lawsuits, etc.
You know, I have one comment on that. Am I allowed to comment at this point, or are we just listening? Okay. I'm curious, Larry, if we were to put a pin in our community hall and we drew a circle 1,000 feet away from that, is that going to encompass the retail strip?
We're talking
about the community center down Bay Street.
Right.
If we put a pin in there and we go 1,000 feet out in a radius, does that exclude some of the retail strip?
My guess is no. I can certainly check on that, but I'm thinking it does not.
I don't think it hit even any commercial yet. It might hit some of the marine stuff, but that's...
Yeah, actually, it could hit some of the commercial stuff down on the east side of the harbor there, but I don't think it would hit Highway 101.
That's what would be 1/10 of a mile.
Right. I wonder if we shouldn't, just for grins and giggles, put a pin and just string 1,000 feet, just to make sure that
That's
we
easy.
know what we're doing, yeah.
I can do
And maybe we
that.
should do the same where we put NFK up in there too, because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, either way, yeah.
Yeah.
I have one question, which was, the community center that's down by the harbor, what is the zoning on that? Is that zone mixed usage or?
It's, off the top of my head, I wanna say it's in Plan Marine, NP,
I think it is.
which, yeah, which we can talk about, but you'll see in here, the probable or possible zones where it would be
Okay.
allowed to include the NP. Basically, it's all those that either include
Okay.
commercial uses, and or industrial uses.
Okay.
I would think you don't want it anywhere where it's primarily by minors, but also primarily by families.
Joe?
Mr. President. Thank you. Thank you. In regards, to the testimony, we could say under 18, that would, that's the definition of a minor in the U.S. and the state of Oregon.
Now, you're
Yeah.
talking about, you're talking about as a potential city regulation?
I, as
Because it's,
attended mostly, by, let's see, where we got here, what's the proposal? Let's see.
11A.
that's location.
Because that already says.
Right, so that's minors is a legal definition, and that encompasses either under 21, I think, or under 18.
Doesn't the state law actually prescribe 21 and over already somewhere?
They're, I almost want to say it's 18.
Because
Well, wait a minute, so,
you can buy cigarettes at 18,
yeah, but you can't buy alcohol till 21, why would we permit marijuana to be sold to anybody younger than 21?
Yeah, but it's saying to put a dispensary facility there. So we're talking about people attending a facility we don't want near a community area. So if you say minors and it's 21, well, I guess that would cover it.
Can an 18-year-old go, Mr. President,
Oh, no, go ahead, sorry.
can an 18-year-old go into a liquor store accompanied by an
No,
adult? No?
no.
What is the age
No
limit?
minors allowed.
No minors allowed at
At
all?
all.
Okay.
Yeah, and I personally think that dispensaries, both dispensaries and retail facilities should have that same restriction.
I do too.
They don't under the current.
No, but it does say that that's something that is possible, that a local, locality can,
Right.
implement that. And I think that's the way that it should be. I don't think that it's going to be, I don't think we should worry so much about families, because families in this town, especially families that are visiting, are mobile, they go all over the place. So we're not gonna be able to, for instance, it's perfectly legal to take your family to the liquor store and leave them standing outside while you go in and do your shopping. And, I don't think it should be any different for this type of facility as well.
Mr. Sparks?
Two things. I love the idea of listing the venues. That was an excellent suggestion. The other thing is, why can't we just use children and minors? Both. Because then that.
Oh, you're talking about the location up there at the top?
Well, I mean, for the, when we were talking about the minor discussion, why can't we use both terms, children and minors?
I suppose we could, it'd be kind of redundant though.
Yes, doesn't minors indicate somebody
Right.
Yeah,
younger than?
But some-
minor is a legal status.
See,
Right, but some people, there's something about the term, from our experience, children, that makes a difference.
Well, it evokes an emotional.
And it's an emotional response, and I suppose from my own experience, working with kids, children seems to be one that, it just clears up, there wouldn't be any doubt if we use both children and minors.
I don't have a problem with that. Beatrice has something she looked up for us.
Oregon law prohibits anyone except a parent or legal guardian from providing alcohol to a minor or juvenile. A minor is a person under the age of 21, and a juvenile is a person under the age of 18. So that's your
Thank
legal,
you.
that's your
Okay.
legal meaning of those two words.
That's
Thank you.
helpful, thank you.
So maybe children and minors
Juvenile.
is appropriate.
Okay.
So what should it be then?
Well, I think what we should do is we're gonna have Mr. Lewis take all these commentaries and he's gonna hard scrabble it into some language for the next meeting, correct?
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
now, could this all be a moot point when, I mean, they're going to be able, the state's going to allow medical marijuana to be dispensed in places other than medical, quote-unquote, medical facilities. So that it will be legal for the public at large, and so, are we saying that this is, because I keep seeing the word medical here, it's only going to preclude the current regulations, not those that are going to be
Not the ones coming.
enforced after, I think, is it July 1st?
July 1st, it becomes legal to possess the marijuana,
But
and
they're
then
two separate.
they're two separate things. And so I was reading a piece on this from League of Oregon Cities, that it's a moving target right now as far as the language and the direction of the different laws and tenets of these laws. And so this discussion here is strictly for the medical marijuana. And then when the new regulations come out for recreational, we most probably will have to revisit that also and insert that somewhere in the business license ordinance as well.
Mr. President?
Yes, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
I was just going to say that they are going to be two separate facilities. They will not be combined. Medical plus recreational, you can't have both in the same location.
Okay, right, okay, so that being the case, then still, if we're looking at to limit the sale of marijuana within the city limits, there's some new laws on the books that any language that we may draft at next meeting, say after Mr. Lewis gets a chance to look into it, or if we choose to do some action tonight, maybe a moot point based upon the regulations that will become in force on July 1st.
It doesn't affect.
They're going to be
The
separate.
the retail sale doesn't affect the medical marijuana.
Right, so
dispensaries.
what I'm saying is that then, okay, so we limit the medical marijuana facility, but it's okay to have a retail dispensary within 1,000 feet.
I think we're gonna, sorry. I believe this is just my guess, I think what will happen is that these new regulations will be forthcoming by 2016, January 1, because they're actually accepting applications for people to do this starting then, and they predict that by 2016, July, they'll be up and running. They'll actually be recreational, we should not say facility, recreational pot shops, to distinguish it from the dispensary marijuana. It's two different things.
Like a smoke shop.
Right, so we're gonna have to come back and do the same kind of, what we're doing, this discourse, to figure out what we wanna do with the recreational stuff. And we can, at that time, correct me if I'm wrong, Larry, we can say, well, we don't want a recreational place 1,000 feet from the dispensary. We could say that. Or we could say, well, you just have it wherever you want it, you know, so this is an evolving discussion to be later brought up again.
Okay, so, that being said, then I would make a motion to adopt, the potential regulations as written, 11A, 2A, and 2B.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Now we get after the discussion. Can we insert the words, Larry, community centers? Because that's what was brought up. And then we should insert the age limit thing.
The
Only
children.
the, I'm sorry, the children,
And-
where it says private facilities attended primarily by children and or minors, right?
That's right.
Minors being defined as under 18.
Under 20.
Under 21.
A juvenile under 18.
Okay.
I know.
Yeah, that'll be okay. It's just,
It's-
I mean, personally, I will say that if somebody's legal to vote, legal to go to war and give their lives for their
Yeah.
country, then they should be allowed to do anything else that's, but that, we have existing laws, so I'm okay with that.
So-
One question.
Joe?
I'm assuming, with my understanding, and I may be mistaken, aren't the retail sales going to be restricted to anyone over 20, or 21 and over?
That's my understanding anyway. It's spelled out, we're just reiterating that's
Just
that
making sure.
here.
No drive-throughs.
Right, yeah, that's interesting. You know, down in Mississippi, you get a drive-through daiquiri, it's amazing. Is there any more public comment about marijuana at all? Or marijuana facilities, I should say.
Medical marijuana?
Yeah. Well, I think we're gonna close that public hearing, let's go on to
I
discuss.
did want to ask one quick,
Well, we'll just close the public hearing and then
okay.
just discuss amongst us, we have a motion on the table.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask if we are going to be taking, written testimony as well as there might be some people who are uncomfortable coming on camera and speaking publicly about it, but still would like to contribute. Would we consider taking written testimony as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you're saying to leave the, excuse me, Mr. President,
No, it's okay.
is what you're saying is to leave the issue open for another, between now and the next meeting, before we make a decision on this?
I think I'd like to for now. I mean, I know that the deadline's coming up, I think time's getting short, but we could leave a window of opportunity for people to submit written comment on that particular issue, like maybe for the next 14 days.
Prior to the next city council meeting.
Sure.
How long has this been, Mr. President? How long has the public notice been out?
It's been out the appropriate amount of time, 2 weeks, 10 days, right?
10 days.
10 days.
So,
And we can extend this, I mean, there's no reason that we can't have another public hearing. We can have Mr. Lewis put in the edits we just had. We can have this document formulated so we can discuss it, and this is gonna be done, this is an ordinance. It's gonna be an ordinance that amends our current business license ordinance. So we can do this work here, we can leave the period open from what I can tell. And then just, at the next meeting, we can then work through any other comments and we can start the process. And we do have time for that. I confirm that with.
Then, Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
I personally don't, given that the fact that we've had notice, and time for either public or written comment. Written comment is always accepted. But out of respect for Joe's wishes, I will withdraw my motion until next meeting. You know.
Who's second?
That being said,
I would
I
second
mean,
that.
I think we could probably go ahead with it, but out of respect for your thoughts on this, I do want to do that.
I think it's necessary to keep in mind that this is a kind of a touchy issue, and it's been going back and forth on both sides of the issue for a long time, and it's a new day for everybody, and I'd like to give everybody possible the opportunity to make testimony, even if they don't want to do it on camera. It's still part of the public record, and of course, I want to factor that into whatever decisions we make.
Well, if we do that, should we go ahead, I'm sorry, Robert.
I'm sorry. And I agree. I feel the same way as Councilor Grant, but I agree that we will do that. But I kind of want to get a comment in there, and that is to say that, isn't it common knowledge that the public, our citizenry, can always write in to the city with concerns and comments? to extend something just to tell people what they already know is kind of,
Mr. President.
doing it for me, but I'll go along.
Councilor Sparks?
Yeah, I certainly agree, but I would also say that our citizens are not always aware that I found out, when I first got into office about some of the things they can or can't do. So it's worth, giving them a chance for some written statements. I like the idea.
I would hate for anybody to feel like they were shut out of it because they just didn't find out about it until after the fact.
So how do you guys feel about having them extend this notice back up in the post office? We can do that. And say, just, you can comment until XYZ date, and then we just move forward with the ordinance then.
Yeah, and we can even add to that
Yeah.
notice, written
Yeah.
comments are,
Are welcome.
submit written or come to
Yeah.
the meeting.
And then, Mr. Lewis, you'll work up those edits we came through here with tonight.
I will, so I assume we're keeping, basically the 2A through the 2G with the comments. Okay.
And so,
I think
unless any other comments on those letters.
on two E, I wanted to take out the language unless accompanied by an adult, and
Yeah.
Ooh,
And to be consistent with what else we're doing, talk about the children and minors.
right, no minors under the age of 18 allowed or within the premises during hours of operation. Although I think we should make that 21.
21.
And no, whether they're accompanied by an adult or not, no children or minors, no one under the age of 21 is allowed inside.
I actually agree with that. Kathy, do you have a
the
comment?
only comment I would have is, because it is a medical marijuana, what if there is a child that needs that marijuana for that, and he's accompanied or she by that adult?
Their parent can pick it up for them.
Yeah, I'm assuming they.
Child support is-
Okay, I'm just, putting it out there.
That's right.
Yeah, there still wouldn't be any need to have a child on the facility, or in the facility.
Anybody else with comment?
Um,
Okay.
I was just gonna say, I also think that would take care of, under
Steve's
two
thing on the front
E,
page.
number 4, because I know that there's been a lot of controversy going on about the way that things are packaged so that they're not appealing to children. And if there's no one under 21 on the premises, then we kind of circumvent that particular one. If they don't see it, then it's not going to be appealing to them.
You good?
I think so. There was, in reference to what Joe brought up, there was something else I saw in here. It's sticking out to me now, so I think it's okay. Oh, advertising. Is it, I don't remember if I saw outside advertising in this or not, like signs and great big.
Well,
green
we
leaves.
already have a signage ordinance for one.
Yeah.
And then also the state has some ordinances pertaining to not making it attractive to minors. I don't know if that's enough. I don't think, it would be difficult for me as a business person to say, gee, you're selling pot so you can't advertise.
Oh, I don't know.
But still, I mean,
Flashing lights, marijuana here.
Oh, I
we
see.
already have that through our sign ordinance, don't we, Larry?
Yeah, the movie and flashing.
Yeah.
Isn't that addressed under 2G, number 1, at least in part?
No.
Okay.
No, that's
Maybe
talking
I'm
about
reading that
certain
wrong.
paraphernalia.
Okay.
Anyway, that's all. Yeah, I'm good.
Let me turn on my
Pretty choose the balls, please.
hands.
Steve, you good?
I'm good.
Finally
Yeah.
going here.
I just wanted to say, in answer to Robert's comment, I have seen some commercials for some retail facilities in Washington State. And what I've seen is, it's pretty tasteful. not overt, they make reference to it, but, not in such a way that, somebody who didn't know what they were talking about would think, oh, that's, yeah. It would go right over the head of somebody who didn't understand some of the.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about commercials, I was worried about the facade of the building, what it looks like.
Well, the OLCC is still having, was reading that in here today,
Yeah.
they're still doing those town hall meetings. And there is one in Newport on the 11th of March, which is a Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m., so.
That's a
and-
Newport, right?
Right,
Yes.
right, and I'm assuming that that's one of the things that they're gonna be addressing. This, I guess, is mostly for the upcoming retail facilities, but I'm sure it's gonna factor into, other issues related to that as well. So, of course, I encourage everybody who's concerned about this to, go and give their testimony. They're also taking it online as well, so check out the website.
Sure, good. Okay, Larry, help us out on that, and we'll read public comment on that once again in the next meeting. Okay, so we're gonna move on to reports of officers and boards. Robert, you want to comment about what we went to today?
We went to a meeting of, basically all the area city people with Senator Merkley and Representative
Schrader, Congressman Schrader.
Congressman Schrader. And it was about the helicopter, the Newport Coast Guard helicopter, and the fact that it's had a year stay of execution. But there a lot more has to be done. It was very well represented by the, what do they call them, the wives?
Newport
Newport
Fisherman's
Fisherman's
Newport
Wives.
Fisherman's Wives, thank you. And Port of Newport, Port of Toledo, Depoe Bay, Zeke and I were there. Mayor of Newport,
Lincoln City was there.
Lincoln City Mayor, yeah.
And a bunch of councilors.
It was just a forum for those folks, us, to voice our concerns even more to the congressman and the senator, and they were very well briefed already. They had a real good idea of how strong our commitments are. So they're gonna take that back to Washington and add fuel to that fire. It was a good meeting.
It was a very good meeting.
Second one was just a joint meeting with them again, the senator and congressman, with other city officials, just to discuss what issues they had that were not related to the Coast Guard helicopter. And that was very short, but it was pretty informative, pretty interesting.
Steve, you want to give a quick report on wastewater? We had a big breakthrough this week.
Yes, we had a great meeting with our partners in Glen Eden just the other day. And what was most amazing about it is that there were really no disagreements that came out of that discussion on anything except language. In one paragraph in the recitals, which was a very friendly thing for all of us to deal with, and we were just sitting there saying, wow, this is great, so we can move forward. And we had the most important discussion, I think, was on the reserve study, that we need to do a better job to reserve funds for ongoing maintenance and infrastructure. So I think most of the discussion was around the life cycle costs of the wastewater system and doing some continued upgrading in that regard. And I don't see, unless someone else does, you were there, I don't see any issues concerning contract negotiations. I think this will go forward, and I think that we're building a much closer partnership with the Glen Eden district.
Dave,
Would you agree?
I would. They even agreed to things they've been disagreeing for years now. So it was good, and second, Steve, it was productive. And the good news is that the rates don't go up next month. So. Anybody else with reports? Okay, let's move on to public comment. Is there any public comment not concerning marijuana? Come up and introduce yourself and give us your address, please.
Excuse me, my name is Jessie Caldwell. I live at 107 South 40 Lane here in Depoe Bay. We've had our home down there for over 30 years. We haven't lived in it all the time because we were snowbirds. We just sold our home in San Diego, so we're out here all the time.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But anyway, what I'm concerned about, and I talked to Brady today about it, Allen and Sons pavings, right down here on the corner. That building has been sold, so they are no longer there. My husband's in a wheelchair, and he goes everywhere, if he can get in that wheelchair. I'm sure everybody's seen him in town. Anyway, we go out the other day, and he says, drive into the paving place, I want to show you something. So he takes me, there's a little road that goes up there, on top of where the paving company is. So I drive up there, and there I see what I've never even known was going on up there. I knew they had chemicals up in there, but they cleaned different parking lots. All that stuff has been taken up there and piled and made a mountain of it. There's all kinds of black looking oil, all kinds of stuff on the ground. When it rains here, and which I know, the rain comes down, it runs down off that hill, runs right down the road, down into the creek, down into the water. I am concerned that it's contaminated up there. And what Brady told me was that we're not using it now for our water, but if something goes wrong, that's where we're going to get our water from, is out of the bay.
Yeah, out of the creek,
Out of the creek.
right. It's a secondary water source.
Right.
South Creek, and if some of those chemicals have leached into the ground, into the water table, it could get into that creek and it's really cause some problems. So I think my step is to do some sampling out there with the next batch of sampling, which is next Wednesday. And we'll see what the results are and kind of go from there.
Right.
But
Brady told me to come tonight so it would be documented
Absolutely.
yeah.
what was going on. I was absolutely
Yeah.
mortified.
Excuse me,
You know,
Mr. President.
I've
we
never
have
seen
map
a
of
truck
where
go
this
in
is.
there.
We have a map of.
We can show it over there on the.
Yeah, it's located right behind us.
Yeah, it's right behind us.
It's right behind
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, and this road goes all the way up, what'd you call it,
To
Indian
Indian Trail.
Trail.
I thought
This is in the riparian area, right around the watershed.
Well, no, it's
It's
just
above
just
that.
up here, it leaches down into the park, which we have a secondary intake at the park.
Okay, all right. Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, Steve.
I'm not sure I understand, don't we have ordinances that prevent folks from putting chemicals in big piles and next to streams and?
Yeah, we have
It's
an
like
ordinance
that.
Yeah, but
violation.
nobody knows
So-
what he was doing.
So we've got a situation where it's breaks the law? Probably, and how are we, what's the solution then?
So,
Well, I need to get some, in order, the process is to get some written procedure down, documented. And that'll let me move forward as the, officer to, go ahead, I'm like a compliance officer.
Okay.
And, to look into the matter and take photos, document, and see exactly what's going on, what the products are, and everything.
So that would lead to a formal complaint potentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
would the complaint, would that be with the city of Depoe Bay, or is that something we pass on to DEQ?
Well, yeah, that would be whatever I can come up with what's going on back there, yeah, probably most likely DEQ. That's some bad chemicals, you bet. Could lead to that.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Also, there's 2 refrigerators, one right there by the building, where they left a refrigerator outside. You know, we have children right
That's not
here
good.
Yes.
that come,
Really?
That's
In
really
Seattle,
good.
there's a law, you have to take
That's
the
a-
refrigerators
Take
off,
the
door
and
off.
you gotta ban
That's
the
a law.
doors off.
right, you either take the doors off or they put them up against the
Yeah.
building where you can't get into them.
Yeah, that's Lincoln County Sheriff's Department, we can notify for the refrigerator, because
Right.
children have been killed
What's that?
Or us gonna suck it.
suffocation.
You know, Brady, some time ago, we also had another complaint, and it is concerning that piece of property that the Flying Dutchman trailer has been sitting on, and now somebody has installed a black skirt underneath of it to hide what's underneath it there. And I know you've been up there to look at it, but you're gonna take a soil sample, would it be, I'm not trying to mix the
Right,
issues,
that's fine.
but I'm just wondering if we shouldn't take a like approach there, so we're dealing with one property and the other the same.
Yeah, well, actually, I'm taking water samples, not, yeah, the drinking samples, not a soil sample.
Okay.
I'm sure that
I
could be
guess
done.
that won't, it's not the same thing.
No, but, no.
Mr. President, so this, ask the witness testimony. So is this on public, is this on private property, these chemicals
Yeah.
that are
Yes.
sitting there right now? So,
I'm not really sure, because see, I didn't know that road went through. I didn't know
so,
there was a road back there that went all the way through, till my husband showed me, he went with it on his wheelchair, he got up there, and he saw it, well, he said, I'm gonna see where that road goes, so he went.
It's part of that property, and it was, they just actually punched a road in on the property.
So it's not a public right of way.
Mr. President,
Is,
it was sold, correct?
right,
Yes,
So
I don't know who bought it,
So-
I have no
so
idea.
Wouldn't,
the new buyer inherits the problem.
right,
And they would sue
wouldn't
that.
that be something
Yeah.
you would contact the owner first?
Contingency.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, 'cause I don't know who bought it.
First thing I would recommend is contacting Lincoln County Sheriffs to get up there and get those refrigerators
Agreed.
disabled
Yeah.
without, you know,
Yeah,
incurring any
it's by the
charges of
Wing Wall
trespassing.
Restaurant,
I'm sorry?
that, it's a house right next to the Wing Wall Restaurant. Brady's tried to get them to do anything, they won't do it.
Yeah.
Well, they towed their trailer the other day for good, so.
Oh, okay.
so,
Well,
Mr. President, so, you would be taking the water samples, downstream from the property, or?
Yeah, actually right around where the intake is, because it sits above, South 40 sits above the park, and then the area where the chemical would be leaching is above South 40, so it would have to go down into the water table, which I would sample down into the park area around the gazebo, which is where the intake is.
what would happen if it hasn't migrated down to that hill and it's still a toxic chemical sitting up on that
Yeah,
plateau?
exactly. We'd have to look and see what's leaching out and.
We're gonna
I
do
don't
an
know
investigative
what
document, so.
But I know that it was black and
Yeah.
oily.
I
I gotta just take a look at it.
Couldn't be good.
Is there somewhere
no
we
way
could
that that
take
could be a
a
good thing.
core sample that's on public right of way, that's downstream, well, theoretically down?
Yeah, it would be about the closest spot, maybe, well, around the basketball hoop area, that'd be kind of groundwater. There may be a lot of stuff located in the groundwater, but it's,
Right.
you know,
So,
a storm.
I think, I mean, they probably get inundated, but, Mr. President, I wonder if a call to DEQ would be in order to see, then they know the laws and what they can do and what they can't, and then they can, if they thought that there was something in jeopardy, they could get a warrant to be able to go on the property or have the proper adjudication to be able to do that.
Right, because we can't, you can just walk up there and take a sample, but you can go up there and take a picture.
I
can't you?
have the right to be in my position as the officer, compliance officer for that, so.
So why don't we, how about this, why don't we have Brady take the pictures, document what he can, take his water sample, go ahead and do that, let's put this on the next agenda. And then perhaps what we do is just what you say is that we probably first should contact the landowner. Because in my mind, that's their problem, right? Even though it's potentially causing problems with other,
Yeah,
it's still the
since
landowner's
building's been sold,
problem.
I don't know if, I wouldn't think it was the new owner's responsibility.
Well, they inherit the property, so it's theirs. And maybe if they would have to, maybe they would go after the previous buyers if there was something, or the previous owners if there was something wrong. Jerome, Steve, I'm sorry.
I only have one thing to add to this, because as a new city councilor, this is the second time in just weeks that we've had, we had the formal complaint for the Whale Inn, and there were open refrigerators in there, and we had to shut that thing down. And that was a dangerous, very dangerous public safety issue, and now we have this one. I'm just wondering now if we shouldn't be a little more proactive and start to think about, where do we have other properties that have this sort of public safety issue? Should we be a little more proactive about this instead of waiting for an accident to happen?
Well, it sounds pretty proactive right here.
Right here, but we appreciate that, but it just causes me to think that there might be other properties out there that we know of that we should look at. That's all I'm saying.
You know, I think on that bet, this is a larger issue. Because right now, excuse me, Depoe Bay has a compliance officer who happens to be the city superintendent. And the interesting thing is Brady is in the position to go save people when there's a problem on their property. Sewer overflow, there's something wrong, Brady's there, he takes care of it, but then also on the back end side, Brady's now the enforcer. And it's conflict that will make it difficult. So I think there's a broader context.
There's a bigger.
Yes,
There's also a time constraint there too, let's face it, he's got a lot of duties.
yes.
Right.
And so, you know, searching out for possible, you know, toxic issues is not something that's gonna be way up there.
Well, I mean, for where?
See, I had no idea what was going on
Just-
there, because I think they're bringing the dump trucks that were hauling all this stuff in, I think they're bringing them in the back way, because I never saw any dump trucks going up that hill.
Well, you mentioned that they use, you know, when they sweep parking lots with that thing, those things have a hopper and they can dump it right there from those trucks.
Well, they've carried it up there. For some reason, it's a mouse.
Right now, the process is utilizing the public to come forward and write a complaint to get the process in motion. And that's how it's in our, etched in stone in our ordinances. So, I can enforce issues as soon as it comes in writing, and then I go forward with it. But, you know, 90% of the time, it's usually with folks saying something, even for water breaks to, they smell sewer or something, it's 90% of the time, it's the public that comes forward and lets us know these issues that are going on. And they'll come to the counter or call, and so it's a pretty, it works, but, you know, I'm sure there's hidden stuff throughout town that, like a refrigerator maybe here or there, for example. Eventually it makes it to City Hall, and we get the notice to move forward with enforcing the issue.
Well, in this case,
hesitated about the
her public comment,
refrigerators.
her public
Then I got
comment is enough
thinking,
to start the process on this. We don't need to do a written one on this one, because it's now verbalized into the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. President, and just a comment, the way a property looks is one thing, but this goes in the matter of public health too. Very,
Yes.
basic strategy, you know, regardless how green or brown you are, the clean water, clean air, those two things. And this goes to the heart, what I'm hearing is alarm from Brady, is not only, we don't know what chemicals, it could be inert, for all we know at this point, but they sit upstream from an intake that is a secondary water source for the city of Depoe Bay. So yeah, I think seriously.
So let's, Brady, do your investigation the best you can. And Perry, can we push this to the March 3 meeting? Do we have room? I think we have room to. And so we'll get some more facts, and if you come on the 3rd, we'll talk about it, okay?
Okay.
You bet I will.
Is there any more public comment? Please come on up and announce your name and your address, please.
And this is just a general comment that I can go ahead and make and address.
Yeah, just go ahead and say your name and your address.
Hi, I'm Bert Sperling. My wife and I live at 555 Point Avenue over on South Point. And been having a home here since 2003, I think it is. Anyway, my background is one where I help people find the best place to live. And the New York Times did a very nice article about me in about 7 years ago as the guy who picks the best places to live. So I've written books about that and been on the Today Show and have a website that gets about 2 million visitors a month and that sort of thing. And worked with Forbes and all sorts of companies and to do news stories about places to live and so on. So obviously Depoe Bay is one of the best places to live, or otherwise I wouldn't be here. But one thing I'd like to go ahead and float as an idea for you to consider is that you have some really unique characteristics here in Depoe Bay that, well, they're unique, and that is very rare in this world to find things that are unique and special. What you could be doing, or what Depoe Bay can be doing, is to, well, for instance, it is unique on the West Coast, I feel, that is actually on the Pacific Ocean. That is so rare. I mean, you go to Florence and you can't even see the Pacific Ocean, and really not so much from Newport. You can see the bay, all up and down California, much the same. So, and then you have the spectacular waves and the spouting horns and such like that. And every night on the news in Portland, you'll see pictures of Pacific City. You'll see the Embarcadero in Newport. You'll see the in Spanish Head, and maybe a few other webcams that'll say what's happening at the coast. And it's really boring. It's really, I mean, you'll see a sunset, it looks very nice, but there's nothing happening. Every night, people could be watching what's happening when there is spectacular wave action, which there often is, and there's exciting things happening here with the ocean, and people are not seeing that where they are in Portland, where half of this state's residents live. That could be something you could float, having a live web feed to one of the stations. You could put out a competitive bid to the stations saying you supply the hardware and the feed, and we will grant you the right to go ahead and broadcast, have broadcast rights to this. And in fact, you could even ask for money for it. And they would have an exclusive right for this period of time. The effect of advertising Depoe Bay to the state and to the region would be immeasurable. And it would be so much more powerful. Millions of dollars. The state of Oregon spends millions of dollars trying to brand Oregon and buy glossy, full-color ads, full-page ads in various publications. But really those are meaningless because people don't believe advertising anymore. Otherwise we'd all be buying new cars every day and lots of hamburgers and such. So we discount advertising, but we will believe what we can see and what's on in editorial context. So if you can go ahead and present this, we have these pictures of Depoe Bay in the news as an exciting, fun place to be, to experience the elements, to have a very different experience of what you have in the rest of the state. That would be immeasurable as far as promoting and sharing what Depoe Bay has. So that's just a thought that I have. I have that every time I look out and I see the waves, and I just think that this is something you have. The other thing you have totally unique here is the harbor. Depoe Bay's harbor is just the It's it's like the traditional New England kind of harbor that you don't have anywhere like that on the West Coast. It's this cute little pocket area. I'm just thinking, waiting for some development company or whatever to go ahead and just turn it into, not that I'd be happy that it would happen, but I could see that it would be very appealing to have this sort of notion of the Depoe Bay as a more of a traditional fishing village type of thing, and everything related to that. Not like I said, nothing else like it in Oregon. So anyway, that's something for just to toss out, and something that I've been thinking about for a long time, and just wanted to share.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's a spectacular idea. I'm surprised nobody's come up with it before this. Just
So,
think,
any questions or follow-ups or anything like that?
I was just thinking, wouldn't it be spectacular to have a camera focused right there in the channel, watching boats come in and out?
There actually is one.
Is
Yeah,
there?
there is
Okay.
one, you can, but it's not what you're talking
It's
about.
not quality.
No.
It's basically for bar crossing. This is what
Yeah.
the bar looks like when you take the boat over.
Well, I know that being a Oregonian by birth and Alaskan by choice, which is the way I normally put it, I lived in Ketchikan for 9 years before I moved back down to Oregon in 1995. And I miss it like crazy. So they have this neat little thing called the Ketchikan, which is in one of the taller buildings right overlooking the Tongass Narrows. And every so often I'll check that camera just to check in and see what my old hometown's doing. And usually it's gray and rainy, but that's what it does there, so it makes me miss it all the more.
Steve's first.
We have an upgraded telecommunications infrastructure now, and we do have a planning process in motion to look at how to take advantage of that. And, I think it's an outstanding idea.
It's been suggested, at least in the harbor.
Yeah.
Kathy, you're next, and then Jerome.
Well, my suggestion to you, because you have such a vast knowledge of it, that maybe you could get that ball rolling for our beautiful city.
Well, I'm not a representative of Depoe Bay.
You're a citizen.
Yeah, well, I do talk with the media and that sort of thing. My time is kind of short, unfortunately. I don't know if I could do as good a job as you could. I'd be happy to help advise as much as I can, and that sort of thing. I'll be happy to share my contact information and everything. But, for
I would
instance,
love that.
yeah, I think a representative of the city would probably contact some of the business managers for KON, KTU, and KGW, and say, we're considering putting a camera. Would you be interested in putting your hardware here for the lights for a period of time, and see what sort of perhaps competitive atmosphere ensues from that?
Thank you.
Jerome?
Oh, Bert, I think it's a great idea. I've had it for some time, just neglected to do it. I own 2 buildings now. They have great views over the ocean there. One is Spouting Horn, which has got both views. I think it's a great idea. I will say that I know that on the cameras that I know that they use as feeds for the Portland broadcasting stations, 2, 6, 8, 12, they use it in a Spanish Head. Okay, Spanish Head probably pays for that, and they get free advertising because every time this is from the camera in a Spanish Head, which really is a valuable type of advertising for a private business. And I kind of remember some of the other cams are sponsored by businesses themselves with the hope of being able to get them, get one of the stations interested in them, and just for the sake of the free advertising that they get.
Are you offering?
Yeah, sure. It's a great idea, and you're right in your observation about Depoe Bay being really the unique, at least in Oregon. It is the only place in Oregon where 101 actually crosses the Pacific Ocean. That being said, that they consider the cove here, the harbor, as part of the natural harbor. and the cove of the ocean. There's other places that go over the Depoe Bay and harbors and window and into rivers, but nothing that actually, and then what you've noticed here, one of the reasons we have the spectacular waves here is that we don't have a sandy beach out front. That's why the whales are here. Okay, because the feed that the whales are grazing on, they don't hatch their fry in sand. They do it on hard rock, and that's what we have a lot of here, and that's why they come in. So, yeah, the Depoe Bay is a really special place.
Do we really want to share?
Yeah, and the point is that if too much commercial is, we've promoted the idea of a fishing village in Depoe Bay for as long as I've been, cognitive of the saying, from Jack Brown. It never occurred to me when I was actually a fisherman here. But that being said, too much commercialization, like as you noted, may ruin that image too. Yeah. So it's a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
But more people in town, spending more money, I think that, and looking.
Nobody would like that.
And looking at Depoe Bay as a nice place to live, I think that promotes, it's a rising tide that promotes everything.
Right, I certainly agree, and I don't like growth for growth's sake, and I think it tends to destroy what is appealing in the first place. That said, the Oregon coast or Lincoln County, the whole area, can use some economic vitality, and they're probably, one can, I don't think you're gonna let the genie out of the bottle, and so to the extent that it can't be controlled as far as that.
Well, the genie's already out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And by the way, you'll probably be at a meeting when you're gonna be drafted, you won't be here, so.
Thank you.
Any more public comment tonight? All right, let's close the comments and let's move right on to unfinished business. Brady, why don't you give a update on our sewer project over at Vista Main?
Sure, it's gonna go out to bid for contractors, the staff, if the council will let us, and we didn't, we've got the final plans finished by the engineers, but it needs to be reviewed for any problems or any red flags that we see, and with the council's permission, if you let staff review that and let us, because we haven't had time today, we're really busy, they just came in, to try to slide it in this meeting, we'd like to get the project going on that. It looked pretty good to me with a real quick review, but I want to really mill through them thoroughly and spend some time really absorbing this whole project and see if I see any problems, so hurrying myself and Larry. So
Make it happen.
if the council will let us review that, and if everything looks okay, we'd like to just scoot forward with it and let them go out to bid.
Do you need a motion?
It would be nice.
Sort of a motion to that end, please.
I'll make a motion that we
Authorize staff.
authorize staff to go ahead and view those documents and go forward if they see fit.
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, let's go ahead and call the roll.
White,
Yes?
Olson,
Yes.
Gambino,
Yes.
Grant,
Aye.
Fisher Brown,
Yes.
Sparks.
Yes.
Thank you, Brady.
You bet.
Next one is, and you're gonna be right up on top of this one too, it's, there is some interest in improving the safety along Shell Avenue. It's our main road down to the, south part of the harbor. And, Brady has, written something for us here tonight, real quick, Mike.
Yeah, thank you.
And, where's mine?
There we go. Well, I did do a lot of research like the council wanted.
Okay, go ahead, take it.
And the speed bump that Mrs. Thomas was really wanting to get doesn't meet the standards for Oregon State highways, which the city adopted those standards, years ago when we form the city. So, I looked into some of the current, road and public right-of-way, standards for, it covers all kinds of stuff. But the speed bumps or speed humps are the elongated ones that are really smooth, kind of like what we have on Williams or speed humps. You have to have a whole lot of, costly ingredients when it comes to those. There's signage, to painting, to all kinds of stuff. And it becomes quite spendy, and then I found that the ones that we were asked to purchase for, a few $100s or whatever it was, were rubber, and those are mainly made, like I said, in here for, private driveways and parking lots, things like that, trailer courts, things. So, I thought, in the near future, we're hoping to get some grant money, or some kind of, even if it's in the budget, to, get these sidewalks put in from the highway around the store, from the school to, crosswalks, sidewalks all the way down to, so we can get to our boat basing area and get to, the city park. And, crosswalks, ramps, all the ingredients to make a really safe, access to our park. So, I think for the time being, we could put up some signs, it's one good idea, and, there's pedestrian, watch for pedestrian and or watch for children. If the council would like, I could do that. The signs are, roughly, probably around $70 a sign or less, with the post and all that included. So, there's also a speed sign that we were told was hit or fell down. There was never really a speed sign in my tenure with the city. On Shell Avenue. So there's been yield signs and stop signs, but never really a speed sign. And most folks that I asked to from back in the day. But we could put a speed sign in, it's 25 miles an hour. So I just gave some options for the council to kind of chew on and see, what everyone thinks.
I spoke with Lori Lewis, Curry, and Brady about this today. We can sit here tonight, and I think we should discuss it about signage and things like that, but we have a traffic safety committee. And they're very engaged, they're very good, they've done a great job for the city over the years. And so I think whatever suggestions we might have, we should forward that to the Traffic Safety Commission, ask them to split up, because they meet once a quarter, but we think we can get them to meet sooner, because there is some urgency to this, because people are using that, the summer's coming, and traffic on Shell Avenue once again will become quite brisk. So I think whatever we do, we should take our comments and then forward it to the Traffic Safety Commission. And with that, who would raise their hand first? Steve?
I can see where the children at play would provoke an emotional response if anybody driving down there. And the fact is, it's true, because there's a park down there, there's a school right around the corner, and we're gonna have children this summer walking down there, as many as 50. And Neighbors for Kids wrote a letter to that effect. It's in the pile. And so we've got input, being on the Neighbors for Kids board, and we have the president of Neighbors for Kids here tonight who might comment on it as well. We spend just about every board meeting during the summer talking about, worrying about our kids walking down that road. I've said that before. So I like 15 miles an hour. I like children at play.
Yes, so do I.
And because that street, so that's kind of where I am with this thing. And that's, Bob Houston has any comments that we would sure welcome your thoughts on it too, Bob.
Catherine, we'll let Catherine go here.
My thought is, for $70, that's an easy fix. It's inexpensive. It's gonna take care of the problem now instead of waiting for a traffic, committee to make that decision. Like you said, it's an emotional, when you see anything that has to do with children, you're gonna stop and slow down. I just think it's a no-brainer to take care of the problem now.
Yes,
So I can get a watch for children and a high, reflective
that's right.
sign for nighttime too, because when it gets dusk, dawn, the traffic lights will be off. Okay, so.
Mayor Mandela suggested that we place a stop sign at the intersection of South 40 and Shell. And I don't know what the regulations for placing stop signs are, that's our street, I imagine we can do it. I think that should be examined too, because it's a natural pause. It forces the vehicles going down the hill to stop and look, and then go forward, and this is why I'm thinking maybe the traffic safety committee, for some of it, we do want to engage. Well, we could certainly put up signage.
There's currently a yield
I thought
that
there was
is
a
for the
stop
traffic coming out of South 40, there's a yield.
sign.
I believe, is it a stop
Stop
sign?
sign.
It's a stop now.
But not for the folks traveling on Shell.
No.
And that's what AJ had suggested, and I thought about it long and hard. I would defer to anybody else, but it sounds like a really good idea because it forces a physical stop, and that will slow down the process going down the Shell. Now, I think the bad side of that is during the high peak days of trailer sailors, you're gonna have a line, people lining up to get in there anyway. That would be the only downside of it. Joe, you wanted to say something?
Well, to address what you just said, in the summertime, there's lines at boat ramps all up and down the coast, so I'm not too worried about that. If they really want to use the harbor, they'll wait their turn. I'd like to know, what's the relative cost of what you were saying, Brady, about sidewalks and crosswalks and signs? What is the relative cost of that versus putting in those speed
Oh, bumps, the speed
ramps?
humps.
Speed humps, yeah.
Speed humps, well, there's a list of issues that come with that, from downshifting to having to throttle up, depending on the size of them, to, boats on trailers with tongues popping up, and list goes on and on with speed humps.
Does that occur?
It may be unsafe compared to, like, if they were there and then there was a sidewalk, not so much an issue, but if there's speed humps where there's pedestrians or kids walking over the speed hump while a vehicle's going over it too, it becomes kind of a safety issue in certain circumstances.
Okay, so maybe that's not the most suitable thing for that road, but there are
Not,
other remedies there.
not on a downhill slope, it's just all the variables come together, really it's, in my opinion, we could come up with a really good idea for in there, if there was a sidewalk, it would be not an issue. If we had speed slowing down, I think, and, sidewalk and then crosswalks, for the areas up above and below and where the condos are, enough warning, I think folks will probably abide by, hopefully abide by our rules.
I would agree with Brady's assessment on the wisdom of putting speed humps on that road is because of the type of traffic that we have, that a different remedy would be a better solution. That being said, we haven't had it, we've had it in the past. I'm reticent in looking for a solution, looking for a problem having a solution, but looking for a problem. What I mean by that is, have we had an accident there? Has anybody been hurt there? Has there been a pedestrian hit there? As far as I know, the answer to all those questions is no. And is there a reason for that? Because generally speaking, people who travel down Shell Island are relatively slow anyway, okay? And so, I'm all for the idea of sidewalks going down that street. I think that, I would say any prevention that we could do that would save one child or one person's life is worth that. We haven't, it's just that the trailers, relatively narrow road, both going two ways. I guess I foresee really became a problem when somebody was hurt, if there was an accident. One solution would be, and this would be an expensive solution, is to have a light, a one-way light, so that it goes yellow, and that one person can come up while the other person is at the top of the hill, right here, waiting to come down the hill, right? I've seen that used on bridges, I've seen it used over in one-lane roads over in Europe. That would be a solution. We haven't had much industrial use that I've seen so far with a lot of trailer semi action coming up and down the road, but that could, I suppose that could be an issue. But right now, I don't foresee it. I don't see an existing problem.
Joe?
I was on that road today, and I noticed as we were going down the road at, I think about varying between 15 and 20 miles an hour, that it is extremely narrow in some places where it really could be considered a single lane. And, for traffic that's coming up, there's no, unless you've got a straight vision shot down to the harbor, there's no way for a traffic coming up to know that there's a car coming down. I don't think the light sounds feasible. We could certainly look into it. But here's my take on it, is that we want to be proactive on this. And I agree with Jerome that I think that we don't want to wait until there's been an accident. I think we've had enough anecdotal testimony that from residents and people who use the street regularly to know that there is an issue and a potential problem. So I really think it would behoove us to look into the feasibility of separating foot traffic and vehicle traffic, and look into what it would take to put in a sidewalk so we have pedestrians completely separate from the right of way. And that'll take care of the problem before it happens.
Steve?
My suggestion would be to try and do something with signage right away, if we can do that.
Sure.
And I do like the idea of having the Traffic Safety Commission work on
They have
that.
to look on the light or the lane control,
They're-
the sidewalk.
How they, and what could come out of all that is some recommendations that might involve some future funding needs that we could have, that we could all do as a community to, if we need to get additional funding for sidewalks or have matching funding for sidewalks, we can get together on that and maybe fund something later. But the Traffic Safety Committee, Commission, if I understand it, would help us put together those kinds of longer-term proposals.
I agree, I absolutely agree. I think that,
So we got a
that
short-term
needs to-
thing that we need to respond to,
Sure.
like watch for children, or children that play.
Or speed limit signs, because we have,
Yeah, okay. I would be comfortable with that kind of direction. Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. President?
Oh, excuse me.
Can we, she wants to make a motion.
Okay.
Comment on.
Go ahead.
Go ahead and make your comment.
Just a comment. Steve mentioned something that was on my mind earlier too. It was 25, because I read your report, and that was great. And what stuck out to me is the 25 miles per hour going down that hill, which is not safe speed. I don't think many people do that, but if we could post it, I think 15 would be an appropriate speed. Can we do that as a city road? Can we make that at 15 miles per hour?
I believe so. Traffic control like that, like a speed, or restricted parking is done by city council resolution.
Okay.
So if this council wants to direct staff to draft up a resolution to bring back for your adoption. If you want to restrict the speed, you can put up signs without a resolution, but like I say, if you're gonna make any changes or restrictions to parking limitations, to speed, that is done by city council resolution. So
Okay.
if you can direct us to
Okay.
draft
We
something.
could, Kathy, you can make a motion about putting the kids' signs up right away. We can do that, that's an easy piece, I think we can all agree on that.
So I'd like to make a motion that we put, two signs that emphasize children,
Caution children.
Yeah,
children
on each
Okay.
side of the.
on each side of the highway.
Okay.
And then we're gonna wait on the speed signs.
Yes.
So I would say, budget of no more than $250.
Okay. Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, we're talking about putting, children reflective signs, on Shell Avenue. Is there any more comments?
Yes.
Yes.
Not to be in the motion, so could we also get it noted that we would like the safety committee officially to meet as quickly as possible?
I think we should do that to talk about the
Traffic
speed.
safety or safety?
Traffic.
Traffic safety.
Yeah.
Okay, traffic, okay.
Mr. President, I have one
Yes.
question. Down at the end of South Point, there is a sign that flashes children, it flashes all the time. What is the cost on
The-
that?
I don't, we pay a flat fee for that. It's currently not working. I'm in the
No,
process.
it's working.
Oh, it's flashing now?
It flashes,
Oh, good, they fixed it.
yeah, it's working.
Great.
I just picked up
Because
my,
it wasn't working and I was, trying to, apparently they got
in
it.
fact, I was thinking, I'm so glad I don't live by that sign flashing all night long.
Yeah, the city pays a monthly fee, I think it might be $30 a month, 20, maybe.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I mean, that's an attention getter.
Yeah,
But that's not the initial purchase price, though, you'd have to purchase.
No.
it first.
that's what the power company
Yeah,
charges.
that's
the
what
electricity.
We purchased the light and the sign and then
Yes.
that's what they charge us
Still
for.
two signs.
There's different versions of that now. There's,
I'm just
they
curious.
have these, solar battery operated, flashing that don't require the monthly, but the sign's around $1,000 for the sign and the flashing yellow light, but it's solar powered and it eventually pay for itself at $30 a month. So that's a version also.
And that's something the traffic committee did.
Right.
And we may want to go down that road rather than have the current one we have, upgrade that one and maybe upgrade, say, another one too. Maybe talk about that during our budget.
And we'll, for now, let's, talk about the, children's safety signs. So, any more comment on that?
No.
You should call the roll, please.
Olson,
Yes.
Gambino,
Yes.
Grant,
Aye.
Fisher Brown,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to new business.
Can I say one more thing?
Oh, I'm sorry, what am I missing?
Well, I just want to say one more thing. I'll make sure the signs don't say slow children ahead,
Right. Thank you.
because that's what most people don't like. Because
Oh,
the things are children are
Oh, slow back here.
Been commenting on that, because on Ainsley, on Ainsley, there's a sign that says slow children ahead, and they took offense to it. The folks in the apartment.
Before we leave this issue, did we want to do something, direct staff to,
yes.
okay, so
I
I would
believe
like
we
to
already
make
have,
a.
haven't we?
Did we?
Yeah,
Oh, I thought it was just for the two signs.
We're doing the two signs,
To
direct staff.
direct staff to, draft an ordinance to reduce the speed limit on that road?
Oh,
No, I'd rather put it to the traffic safety
and
commission.
then see if they're recommending.
That's right, have them kick it back to us, because we want to keep our commissions involved.
Yes.
Don't want to usurp their authority. Okay, so let's move on to new business. The first one's a thing for Brady. He's got us some money to put in a wastewater dump station for some of the voters, Brady.
Yes, yeah, well, pretty help. And, we've got some grant money to get a, pump out, station on the fuel dock, and it's brand new. I think we're gonna need a little bit of help with the, it's mostly out of the box unit, bolt it down, we can do that, maybe get an electrician, to wire it up, after it's all set and ready for the wiring. Other than that, I think it's, a really good idea, it's all stainless, it's, been put in many other marines throughout Oregon, saltwater, environment, so, I think this is great, it's a great, opportunity for us to get a brand new system. And the other one, just didn't hold up, and, we're able to get this for free, and working with the Marine Corps is great, it's a good asset we have.
Brady, no, go ahead, Tom.
I'm curious, how much does this thing cost, all the trinkets?
It's $44,000, it looks like.
It was, no, I can't.
Well, yeah, the amount comes out at 44,000, so is that how much it is?
Yeah, the grant funds, the combination is $45,000 for the project.
Yeah.
State Marine Board will provide us a cost estimate for the project. I know at the time we applied for this grant, there really isn't a match required. So if we can get the project done for $45,000, we won't have to spend any of the city's money.
That's what I was really kind of curious.
Yeah, so we could do like.
Yeah, it's supposed to happen. So you need a motion for us to move forward with this.
Yeah, the council needs to approve, this is a grant agreement, we're taking the money and then we're agreeing to do what it says in the agreement. So a motion to approve the agreement and authorize the mayor or council president in this case to sign the agreement.
Robert, go ahead.
For Brady, can we successfully, well, I imagine we could get an extension, but it doesn't give you a lot of time to complete this. June 30th of this year.
But
Yeah.
this is a unit that's already prefab though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's a matter of just dropping and wiring it in.
It can be done.
Yeah, it's gonna, yeah, great. The other one, if it's anything like the last one we got, it was just on a pallet, and we just, loaded it down there with, our crew and got it set, bolted down, and, yeah. There's signage included and everything, so.
Mr. President,
Yes.
respond to what Mr. Gambino says. I know we don't have the full faith and power of the federal government behind us that, June is a little ways away. Federal government did construct the All-County Highway, which encompassed several thousand miles in 1 year. But we do have Brady. And I have faith.
Yes.
in Mr. White.
That's a lot to live up to.
Yes.
There you go.
Someone give me a motion to approve this?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the grant. This isn't a grant request, approve the grant and authorize you to sign it.
Sounds good to me. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other comments?
One comment, Mr. President.
Let's see.
This, and I'm going to vote for it here anyway, but I would say that if for any reason that the cost, we took the money and there was a cost, a marginal cost overrun, then we would be on the hook for that by taking the money to begin with to complete the project, I think.
Yes.
Yes.
That's all.
Would you call the roll, please?
Gambino,
Yes.
Grant,
Aye.
Fisher Brown,
Yes.
Sparks,
Yes.
Wyatt,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes. Okay, on the item B, proposed resolution 440, a resolution calling for an election on May 19, 2015 for the purpose of referring to the voters of the City of Depoe Bay, Oregon, a measure proposing an amendment to the city charter of 1976. And in your packet tonight was a confidential legal opinion on this item. If you had a chance to review it, basically it says on the Exhibit A, I think it is, on the very back one, that the language of ceasing to reside in the city, according to our attorney, is enough to handle the issue that he addressed during the last session of this council prior to the election. So basically what he's saying is we can move forward with this referendum by just adding those other items. He also goes on to say that down the road here, since this document is 1976, that's 35 years? Round about. A long time. But he had suggested that any further items in the charter we should get on with, but according to what he's writing, we could correct the problem just by putting those words in. Now, Perry had some commentary on, Robert had some feedback. Mayor Madela had some comments. I believe Mayor Madela's comments and Robert's comments are still in this document for you to see. I talked to Perry about this today, and Perry, I'd ask you to give a little summation of a charter amendment that came before the city council a number of years ago.
Oh, yes, and I recall it was, I want to say in the 1990s, that the city council assigned a committee. And this committee started reviewing the city charter, and because it needed to be updated. That committee worked hard and long and came up with so many changes and revisions to it. The city council ended up having a clean document instead of like what you have before you tonight, where you're just referred to one section of the city charter. They had a whole clean document of a city charter to replace the old one. And frankly, it was just too much for the voters. It went down in flames. It was too much. So while you don't want to piecemeal this so much, I think it's important when we present something to the voters that it's very clear what we're doing and what we're going to be changing. So that's that little story.
So less sometimes is more.
Good cautionary tale.
Yeah. So let's have a little discussion about this. Has everybody had a chance to read the feedback from the attorney?
Yes.
Anybody have any comments? No? Well, then we need a motion to set this process in order.
Mr. President, I move that we accept the changes as they're outlined in the confidential document that was provided to the council members and amend the city charter to reflect these changes.
Need a second. Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the lawyer's recommendations here. And it's also, in that motion, I think it's, we're giving the city staff authorization to move forward with the resolution process for this placed on the ballot for May 19th. Am I saying that correctly? Kind of, okay.
So the motion is to accept the changes as outlined by the city attorney.
Yes.
And in Exhibit A here,
In Exhibit A.
with the notes on it?
Not with the no, there's a one on the very back page that has just the added word ceasing to reside in the city. Yeah, the notes I think were there for you just to kind of look at what was put out in front of them.
It's in a different packet. This is?
That's the whole thing.
There was actually two of these in your packet. So if you want, you can have mine.
If it's helpful at all, the draft resolution number 440, I believe, and has
Big cash.
changes. Well, this was drafted by the city attorney. So the only revision from what the attorney drafted and provided for your consideration is on Exhibit A, Section B, Item 2. The attorney had drafted that to say, ceasing to be a qualified elector of the city within state law. And the mayor suggested changing it to say, ceasing to be a qualified elector of the city within the meaning of the state constitution.
That's the only change.
That's
I
the
read
only
that, I
change
think.
from what the
Okay, and I
attorney
read
drafted.
that in that.
And
in his
number 4
confidential
also.
notes.
Number 4 is an addition also, Jerome.
But again, that is
This
what
is,
the attorney
this is
drafted.
this is, but the attorney said that, the change is the state law, so this is not the draft from the attorney.
Well, it is, except that he wrote, change that to state law.
Okay.
Everything else he said is.
All right.
So it will,
Except-
ceasing to reside.
Can we get a clear reading of it to go into the record for the public?
Sure. Greg, could you, I suppose, would just reading section 32 vacancies be enough instead of going through the whole resolution?
Yes.
Or do you want to read
So
that?
just read the exhibit?
Just read the Exhibit A, section 32 vacancies and on down.
Okay. So Exhibit A attached to proposed resolution number 440, a ballot measure for a city council referral to the voters of the city of Depoe Bay for a proposed charter amendment. And this wording is if this goes on the ballot and if the voters approve it, this is what the wording will be. Be it enacted by the people of the city of Depoe Bay, Lincoln County, Oregon as follows. Section 32 of the City of Depoe Bay City Charter of 1976 is replaced in its entirety with the following. Section 32, vacancies. A, the office of mayor or councilman shall be deemed vacant upon the incumbent's 1, death, 2, adjudicated incompetence, 3, conviction of a felony, other offense pertaining to his office, or unlawful destruction of public records, or 4, recall from office. In subsection